to our webinar on cybersecurity. Today's webinar will be recorded, and we will offer those recordings to you after that. You should get it tomorrow morning in a link in your email. If you have any questions today throughout the recording, please feel free to add those to the Q&A section where it says questions, and we will make sure to get those answered for you. Today, Lindsay will be monitoring our Q&A, as I will have to jump out early for another meeting. Our presenter today is Katie Kramer. Katie's a training and project specialist for TTEC-T, offering Office 365 and security awareness training. Katie has over 15 years of experience in the IT field and a degree in business information systems. Welcome, Katie Kramer.
Thank you so much, Amy, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we are going to be talking about cybersecurity. I know it is a ton of information to take in, so please feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A, and Lindsay will let me know whenever we have a question. So don't be shy, ask your questions. So let's get started. So today we will be using a PowerPoint just so that we have some talking points to go through. There's really nothing to demo today. So what we are going to be talking about are just a few of the fundamentals of cybersecurity. So why is your small business even a target? How do these attacks come in? The core behaviors, how can you protect yourself from these cyber attacks? And your role within your organization, how you can influence and help to protect your business. So let's talk about, why is your business even a target? So the general assumption is that you're not the target. You're thinking you're a small business, you're in the sticks of Ohio, whatever the case might be, you're thinking there's no way that some person like working down in their basement is going to come after your business. That's not necessarily the case, and there are a few reasons why. So you do have some pretty valuable data, whether kind of depending what industry you're in, but whether you have medical records, credit card information, social security numbers so they can steal people's identities, bank account credentials. That's always the trick part too, is once they get into your bank account, it's easy for them to start moving the money all over the place. And that's why it's always hard to catch these guys and then get your money back. So, and for them to be put away for doing everything. So the next one is your cash. And I mean, plain and simple here, it's ransomware is a popular method of attack. So basically ransomware is where they will lock your data so that you can't get to it. And then they'll threaten to either publish it or sell it unless a certain amount is paid. Typically, once that amount is paid, they will unlock it for you. But if you can, do not go through that whole process. And we will talk about how to prevent yourself from becoming a target. You do have links to the big fish, to those big companies, to those big corporations that you would expect to be the target. So you are digitally connected to complete whatever transactions and vice versa for these big companies coming to you sometimes. Manage supply chains and share information. So let's talk a little bit about the big hack that Target had back in 2013, that they had credit and debit cards details of approximately 40 million customers that were stolen. So it was one of the biggest data breaches to happen to a US retailer in the history of cybercrime, with a total equity of approximately 11.3 billion. And with 360,000 employees, the retailer, I mean, obviously they're not small, it's huge. But what makes this relevant to how cybersecurity applies to small businesses is that they actually, the now convicted hacker, access the retailer's network by hacking an HVAC small business and stealing the details it used to access the target network. So that's just kind of a good example of how they are able to use kind of stepping stones, starting with the small businesses and working their way up to some of the big, like let's say Fortune 500 companies. Also, 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. So how do these attacks even come in? So the first one is through email. So when you get an email and you open it up and something seems a little bit odd about it, there might be the suspicious sender address, the call to action button, email inaccuracies, like watch for the different typos or kind of the strange language, something a little bit different than who they might say that they are pretending to be. They might request sensitive information. That's a huge red flag. Always make sure to give them a call and make sure that you validate their actual request. Check that email attachment. If it sounds too good to be true, some of these offers like, oh, hey, we want you to have a free vacation to wherever, probably not a legit email. And then also just the pressure. A lot of times they'll try and, act now, or they'll try and play on your emotions a little bit. They'll show you some, like something sad, like abused puppies or something like that, that try and pull at your heartstrings a little bit and get you to send over some money to help out. Hacked website. So a lot of times you can tell if a website is hacked by the pop-ups that are on the website. Granted, some of them are for ads, but if it's like spam ads that have like irrelevant content on it, or you really have to be careful there. And a lot of times too, just leave your pop-up blocker on for your internet browser so that they don't even come up. If it redirects you to an unknown site, or if pictures or text appear in odd places, like if it seems like a little bit off, a lot of times too, that's a good trigger to know that a website is hacked. Also, if you are purchasing something from that website, make sure up at the URL that it has a HTTPS. That way you know that the site is secure before you enter your financial information. The next one is if you have a guest in your office, and by guest, we're using that pretty lightly because if they're there to do something malicious, it only takes them minutes to install malware on your computer or your phone, or they can get your contacts or do a financial transaction. So make sure to lock your devices every time that you're away. That goes for your phone as well. I know a lot of times, it's kind of inconvenient, but now with the thumbprint reader or things like that, make sure that you are locking your devices anytime that you're away from them. Also for printing, make sure that you have a dedicated printer in your office, or make sure that it is stored in a secure location. A lot of times too, if you do have a guest in your office, they can go over and they can take a quick picture of that document, and then potentially that might have someone's social security number, if you're doing some onboarding or things like that, and you have their HR forms. Just kind of another way to help keep your employees safe. Removable media or shared files. So make sure that you have a policy in place at your organization for any found external media. So let's say that you find a USB drive someplace in the office or in the parking lot or whatever. Don't take it and plug it into your computer. Please give it to your IT person or give it to us, or anything but plugging it directly into your network. It could cause a lot of problems. Hover over the link or button before clicking so you know where you are going. So that is if you are clicking on, a lot of times now in emails, you'll have a link to be able to get to a shared document. If someone shared something with you from, let's say, OneDrive, make sure that you're hovering over that link first before you're actually clicking on it. And again, anything that you are suspicious of, make sure to just say something to your IT or your manager and make sure that it's legit. Social engineering is another way that the attacks are coming in. So social engineering is where someone will come up to you and it'll be, they rely on the weakness of human nature versus the weakness of hardware, software, or network design. So things such as email phishing, phone conversations, or even through text, a lot of times too. I mean, they can say, hey, this is Ricky from the lawn service company or whatever. Here's a link to your appointment. You don't have anything scheduled, so that's not Ricky from the lawn service place. So make sure, just always kind of have your guard up, not to make anybody paranoid, but we do want to make sure that you are being very careful. So kind of some core behaviors. So the first one that we want to talk about is phishing. So phishing is a fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information or data, such as usernames or passwords, credit card details, or other sensitive details by impersonating themselves as a trustworthy entity in digital communication. So typically this is carried out by email spoofing, which is basically like if Lindsay were to take my email address and send an email as me, but it's not actually coming from an email address. They're just able to make it look like that. Instant messaging, text messaging, phishing often directs users to enter personal information at a fake website, which matches the look and feel of the legitimate site. So again, that's where you have to be really careful of these websites that you're going to and making sure that it is the actual website that you want to go to, especially if it's like a banking website, just to make sure that it's secure. Password security. So we talk about this one quite a bit, I think. So we highly suggest using a password manager. And the reason being is the National Institute of Standards and Technology changed their recommendations. So your password should be some random long string of characters rather than a simple password that you change frequently. So it used to be, yeah, you could just do like technology 101 and then exclamation mark, and that was okay. But now we're wanting it to be something with alphanumeric, with symbols in it, uppercase, lowercase. So as complex as you can make it, which also makes it harder to remember though. So by using a password manager, you're just kind of making it so you can put in all the different parameters that a website or an account is requiring, and then it'll generate that random password for you. So just make sure though, if you do want to use a password manager, make sure that you do your homework on it. Some of them have been hacked into. There are different levels of password managers. If you would like to talk about password management, please give us a call and let us know, and we're happy to tell you what we recommend. So another thing too is, so we talk about password managers and we talk about using strong passwords. Make sure though, do not store them in the browser itself. We have a video that shows, I think it's on our YouTube, it shows Tony hacking into Firefox, I think it was Internet Explorer at the time, and also Microsoft Edge. And he had it done in less than 7 minutes, and he had passwords from all three of those browsers. So make sure that you're careful. Don't save them in Microsoft applications. That's just as, not secure as using the password manager. So those places are just easily hacked. Social engineering, like we talked about before, it relies on the weakness of human nature rather than the weaknesses of the hardware, software, and network design. Malware. So malware is any software intentionally designed to cause damage to a computer, server, client, or computer network. So a wide variety of malware types exist. So this is where the terms such as computer viruses, worms, Trojan horses, ransomware, spyware, adware, rogue software, wiper, and scareware. That's where those come into play. They all funnel back up to being malware. Removable media. So we talked about this a little bit. So removable media is anything that is expandable storage in a form of computer storage that is designed to be inserted and removed from a system. So these are things such as like DVDs, CDs, USB drives, anything that's going to require the hardware to be plugged in, and then the computer is going to read read the files on that device. Physical security. So again, make sure that you're printing in a secure location and that you are locking your computer or your phone when you're away from them. Working remotely. So obviously this is a big thing, and hopefully by now, anyone who started working remotely at the start of the pandemic, I hope that they are doing all of these things and more and making sure that they are definitely keeping their guard up. So using VPN, and make sure that they are calling to verify if they get asked, like if you're a financial person and let's say the CEO calls and asks you to wire transfer some money over and you don't think anything of it, make sure you still pick up that phone and call and just make sure that that's what they want you to do. Also make sure that you're using a pop-up blocker and using a secure network connection. Mobile security. So mobile security is a protection of smartphones, tablets, laptops, and other portable computing devices and the networks that they're connected to from threats and vulnerabilities associated with wireless computing. So lock your phone, only install apps from the stores, so the Apple Store, the Androids, and make sure that you keep your devices with you. And the last one that we have is safe web browsing. So make sure that you are installing and using antivirus software, use a firewall, use strong passwords, update your security software, and just kind of double check and make sure when you are clicking on links or in email or instant messages, make sure that they are going to the site that you think they're going to. Make sure you are bookmarking important sites. The key here is sometimes too, so if you do a Google search for a company, it's real easy for a hacker to go in and it's one character off from where you think you were going, but you click on that hacked website and the next thing you know, you think that you're purchasing something from, let's say, Target, and you're actually just giving your information to that hacker. And again, do not save your passwords in your web browser. Lindsay, are there any questions so far?
There are no questions.
Okay. So yeah, guys, feel free to drop anything in the Q&A, anything that you want to talk about, and we'll keep going. So how to prevent cyber attacks. So just kind of some security measures that we want to talk about, just a couple basic things. So the first one is to make sure that all of your employees are trained with regard to cybersecurity. We have a program that we use to train our staff and we provide it to our clients. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know. We do the simulated emails, we do the videos, like we build out the whole campaign for you. And then that way it kind of helps us, or it helps you guys stay up with the current trends and what we're seeing, and helps keep you guys protected. High-level passwords we talked about, and then MFA is multi-factor authentication. So that's where you have two different sources that you're going to use to get logged into a site. So this is where it comes into play. Let's say that like your Microsoft account, you have it set up, you type in your email address, you put in your password, and then you use the Microsoft Authenticator app to give you a code so that you can get into Office 365 online. Firewall and antivirus software is updated regularly. We can't stress that enough. Make sure that it is up to date because it's real easy to let it fall behind or think of, you don't have to renew your subscription. Make sure you're keeping it up to date. Data encryption, this is when it's at rest and also in transit. That's where VPN is very important, especially for people working remotely. Regularly scan devices that are connected to networks or computer systems. Have a policy in place. We talked about this a little bit already, but what to do if you find removable media and you're not sure what to do with it. Just have policies for that kind of stuff. Same is true for like bring your own device. You want to make sure if someone brings their device that it's not like their home device, that you have whoever else in their household or whoever they're sharing that device with, and then they're accessing company data. And then limit employees' access to files that are not required in the performance of their assigned tasks. So sometimes too, a lot of businesses tend to just give access to everything, where that's not necessarily the case, that people don't really need that. Like if I'm in engineering, I don't need access to HR, and then I'm able to see like people's social security numbers or birth dates or those kinds of things. Just kind of watch and make sure that people only have the access that they need to be successful in their job. So your role, and it doesn't matter if you're an IT person or if you're the business owner or you're the accounting person, whatever your role is, if you can help your company stay safe, just a couple ideas, bring up the idea of doing policies, both for bring your own device and also any kind of, let's see. Sorry, so yeah, any kind of policy that you can do to help keep your data protected. Set the example, make sure that you are leading by example. And like if you do decide to provide education, make sure that you're completing that education as well, and make sure that you are letting people know, hey, you have until the end of the month or whatever it might be to get that education completed for the month. And also just invest in those security measures. So there are a ton of different things that you can do. If you're not sure where to start, please give us a call and we are happy to help you walk through how to get started.